So if we kind of shift a little bit more to like the player side of it now, or the athlete side of it, are there anything that, or any kind of patterns you've noticed with some of these organizations in terms of expectations on players, or like non-negotiable traits, or anything about the way that they are actually interacting with the players that's super notable to you?
Yeah. Again, when you're touching base with your players and being aware of where your player is mentally and physically, and the we did in Zug, in Switzerland. They have this place called OM, which if you get it's OYM. If you get a chance to Google it, it's an epicenter to just the sleep studies and nutrition studies and all that. And it's starting to come all the way across. Like I've now done a few after that, and the programs afterwards are starting to work into that a little bit more too. So what does that mean for the player? I think the expectation the organization should have of the player is at least awareness of what that looks like, and how they're managing their body, how they're managing their mind, how they're managing their sleep, all of those different things to kind of align with what the organization, what the coach is teaching them. I think the one thing too that I've noticed that's missing, or I'm hearing from organizations that's missing, is hockey IQ. You know, we are in a world now that there is a skills coach for everything, and they don't necessarily communicate, and they certainly don't work with the organizations, and this and that. So that's one thing that I've noticed too. That's a real. It's going to become more of a focus. I feel like in the next couple of years to bring that part of the game back. It's great that you can dangle 1-on-4, but if you end up in a corner and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to look, you don't know who's open, who's on this, then again, what have we really accomplished? It's only a piece of the puzzle. So you're seeing that start to become something that's focused on a lot more. And the other thing too that I use baseball as an example, is versatility. We're really starting to see, especially in some of the European programs, like we're playing five guys on the ice. We're not playing two defensemen and three forwards. There is a lot of, the defenseman goes up and now maybe he finishes the shift as the left wing, and we all, like, there's a lot of diversity in the player. So those are two real aspects of the hockey IQ and the versatility that I think players now should start trying to find ways to implement into their games.
Yeah. And then do you ever hear, or is there any piece of conversation talking about um, balance for the athletes in terms of like early specialization? Like this is kind of like a hot topic now too. Do they, so like all of this, like someone listening to this could be like, "Oh, this is serious, like this is like a
Yeah,
serious,
yeah.
like we're talking about a serious operation."
Hmm.
And like from my perspective, those two things don't have to be at odds. Like you can have a very well run program and still keep balance with the athletes to make sure that when they're 9 they don't get a hernia because all they do is skate. Like, so is that ever worked into any of the conversations? What have you heard about that with some of these organizations? Do they do anything actively to kind of account for that or try to address that topic?
Yeah, and some of the programs that I've seen in Europe and North America are almost forcing multi-sport. So I know Jung Aldrin Mannheim was an example of this. Zug's been an example of this. Like some of their practices when the weather turns are they're playing ultimate frisbee. Like they're not going on the ice at all. They're because you're learning so many different things, and I think there's enough research out there now that you see why being able to play tennis helps you as a hockey player, and why being able to play soccer can help you as a cricket player, or there's a lot that's kind of weaving into it. So I think that's one thing that we're also trying to preach, with just in general with organizations, is just that is to look further down the road, that what they, if they work their butt off at U11 and you've got them working with a skills coach, and you've got you're on the ice 4 times them, and like the burnout of kids is very, very real. And I think it's just something that we're starting to really acknowledge. So yeah, like there's space in that for sure. Some of the programs, like I did Notre Dame, Okanagan Hockey Academy, both of them in Canada, like it's an academy system. So they're in school there, they live there. Like some of their school practices are simply just going outside and doing something else. They put the sticks and bags away, and they're working on this, or they're doing meditation in one of their classes, as opposed to going on the ice, or cutting it back in that kind of sense. So I think we're kind of having to force introduction to that to our kids, that multi-sport is a good thing, especially early on, because we're not creating robots here. We're trying to teach kids how to be hockey players. So, at 11, does it serve a kid better to be playing soccer in the summer as opposed to also doing 3 skates a week in the summer? I mean, it's starting to become very obvious that that's not a beneficial way to do
Yeah,
things.
it does feel like we're a little behind the I guess the cutting edge of where research is at and that stuff, at least in our area, where it's not really just a given that, hey, this is too much. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's like, and so with a lot of these programs, I want to make sure kind of that point is clear. Well, first I want to clarify that they do account for this kind of stuff, but make sure it's clear that people understand, just because you have a well organized program specific to hockey, that doesn't mean it has to translate to all you ever do is hockey, all you ever think about is hockey, and all,
no,
like, and
for
any of
sure.
that kind of thing, right?
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's where, academics plays in with some of these places as well, just as much as anything else. I mean, Okanagan was a great example of that. Mike Needham, who's the director out there, like, he's kept his best player home in championship tournaments because he got a call from his teacher, and he had missed school the last 3 days. And why weren't you at school? Well, I was getting ready for the tournament. Well, I mean, you're 16 years old. Does the 3 days that you were in school matter a little bit more than the tournament that's not really going to matter at all, or what, right? So it's almost implied in that. And I know we speak glowingly about this, and the one thing that I try to make clear when I'm doing night presentations is nobody has the answer. Like, these guys are doing it right and everybody else is doing it wrong. They're constantly evolving and wanting to get better. And I think one thing that I've really taken away from these programs too is how willingly they are to share this kind of information, because you can very well see a program that's the best of the best that thinks they've got the secret sauce, and they're not telling anybody. But any of these clubs, it's every person I've tried to connect with is, yeah, when are you free? I can do, like, and they've sent me all kinds of different things of, like, how they evaluate their coaches, or this is our practice plans for U9, and this is, like, they're willing to share that information because they feel like what they're doing is going to help grow the game
Yeah.
by sharing it as well.